Hi everyone, this is Sandra. Welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. Today's video is all about showing you what you can do without paying a Pottery Barn price and DIYing some projects for yourself. Most of the items that I have today in this video came from the thrift store. Some of them might be from the dollar stores, but most of the stuff is from my stash. I'm using my favorite permanent glue, which is Weldbond glue, because it's not just a wood glue. It works for glass, ceramic, tile, plastic, you name it. So this is basically a permanent glue, and it really holds up nicely and it actually sticks pretty quickly. So it cures in about 24 hours, but after about 10 minutes or so, you can actually work with your projects. So it's not like E6000 where it's still going to slide around a little bit. That's why I love it. And it is available in my Amazon store if you want to try it out. So I've got a bowl that was in my stash, and this just came from one of my dollar stores. I've got a couple of pieces of these wood coasters. They came from the Dollar Tree at some point. There's little holes in them, so they've actually already been used for a project, and now I'm reusing them just to create a little bit of height because there's a dip in the bottom of the bowl. The next thing I'm going to be gluing on is the candlestick, and you can see that it was originally a glass one. It was painted black, then it was painted white, and then distressed. So I am using everything that I have in my stash and just repurposing them. The little wood bowl is going to be the base at the bottom, and this is what I'm trying to create. This is called a Farmstead Stoneware Footed Serving Bowl, and it retails for $59. I for sure thought that I could do this for way less, and I'm probably spending only about maybe $8 on mine, and that includes everything, even the paint. Once it had sat for a couple of hours, I took it outside and I gave it a couple of coats of white spray paint in just a satin finish. That just happens to be what I had in my stash. Before I did that, though, I did actually cover the inside with some newspaper and some painter's tape because I didn't want the inside to get any paint on it. I want that to still be able to be food safe. When you're doing projects like I am, I'm painting a lot. I'm investing in my tools. And this brush is from Staalmeester and it's the pointed sash. And it is my absolute favorite brush. I've tried different chalk paint brushes and just using regular dollar store brushes. And I thought I'm going to give these a try. And you know what? I am not going back to any other type of brush. The bristles are so soft, and you can even leave the paint on this for a couple of days, just wrapped in plastic. And the cleanup is still going to be as easy as if the paint was just being used. Warm water and the paint just slides right off the bristles. These are amazing. I do have a bunch of them listed in my Amazon store, but I highly recommend this brush in particular because it has all of the points at the top of it and it gets into all of the little cracks and crevices really easily. I did 2 coats of that paint that I showed you and I let it sit overnight to completely dry. Now I'm taking a little bit of burnt umber and a little bit of water, and I've put it in this glass and I've just mixed it together. And then I took my brush and just dipped it in the water and then drained off a lot of it. And now what I'm doing is just creating a stoneware texture, and I'm going to show it to you up close in just a second. There it is. Look at that beautiful texture that you get just by tapping your brush a little wee bit. You get a bunch of speckles on there and it looks exactly like a stone finish. I'm going to continue doing this with the brown until I get the look that I like. I'm not going to go overboard with it. I just want to have some speckles all the way around. Then I'm going to switch over to some black acrylic paint. Again, just mix it with a tiny little bit of water, dip my brush in it, dragging my brush against the edge to get the majority of the water off, and then tapping it against my project. And the look of it turned out exactly how I wanted it to. I'm so excited that this actually looks almost exactly like the same pattern and color and texture that's on the Pottery Barn one. Let's do a side-by-side comparison. So here's the Pottery Barn one for $59, and here's mine, which probably cost me about $8. Yes, they look different, but I think I was pretty spot on with the color and the texture of the stone. I'm really happy with how mine turned out. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time, thanks so much for clicking on my video. If you like what you see so far, I'd love it if you could hit that red subscribe button and stick around a while. The second project that I have for you today is a wooden box makeover. Now, this one just has the little extra lip down at the bottom, but this was also a thrift store find. It's already been painted once, and I've used it a couple of times for different things, but now I'm going to make it over one more time. So I'm taking just some black chalk paint and I'm going to give it one good coat. This is what I'm trying to recreate. Some reclaimed wood boxes, a set of 3 for $169. There's no way I would ever pay that price. I'm going to show you how you can get the look of reclaimed wood just using a few different colors of paint. So I've got my black, it's completely dry, and now I'm going to take this tan color, and these are just latex paints that I pick up, the little freebies and the discounted ones that you can get at the hardware store. And I'm just going to do some dry brushing with that color. And it's okay if I get a little bit of a darker look on it, like if I get more of the tan color, because I've got two other colors that I'm going on top of this yet to create the look that I'm going for. Once I have the first color on, I'd like to go with a lighter touch and then I can always come back and darken it up. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm using the same tan color, but I'm adding a little bit more of the color to it just to bring out more of a wood grain look. Next color I'm using is a soft gray. It's sort of like a dove gray color. You can see the color on the cardboard there. That's where I'm getting the dry brushing from. I just blob a bunch of paint on my cardboard and then I just go ahead and use that for the dry brushing effect. And you can see that there's already a bunch of different colors showing up on this box. Next, I'm using some burnt umber just to give it more of a wood look, more of the brown. But then I noticed that it was just blending in a little bit too much. So I switched back to the tan color and added a little bit more of that on top of it. The final piece of the puzzle is going to be adding a little bit more of the black right on top again, just to bring out some of the brush strokes and make it look like wood grain. Here's another look at the Pottery Barn set for $169, and here's a look at mine. They are a little different. The shape of my box is different than what they have, and I probably could have used a little bit more brown, but I still think mine turned out great. In the summer, I found a set of 4 of these canisters, and I'm going to be using some hot glue just to add some textural lines to them, and this is what I'm trying to recreate. This is a beautiful vase. It's $139. And yes, it's terracotta and the shape is different, but I thought I could recreate somewhat of the look just using this canister and a little bit of hot glue. It was great that the design on this canister had these grid lines, so I was very easily able to keep my lines straight, although they are a little bubbly here and there, but the texture on that vase was very not uniform either, so I wasn't really worried about that. So I'm just going to continue making these lines with my hot glue and then just set it aside so they can fully cure. Again, I took it out to my garage, gave it a couple of coats of white spray paint just to help because when I'm putting my other paint on, I don't want that dark green to show through. So I've got some white chalk paint in a little cup here and I added just a splash of burnt umber because I wanted this to be more of a warmer white color and it turned out pretty good. Then I'm going to add a bunch of baking soda until I get the thickness and the texture that I want for this. I usually add about a half a teaspoon of baking soda at a time. I don't use any measurements. I just kind of throw it in there until I get the look of texture on the paint that I'm going for. I'm using just a regular dollar store brush to apply the paint. I don't like to use my expensive brushes when I'm using any type of texture like baking soda, simply because I don't want any of the grit to stay in my brushes. I'm going to give this 2 coats. So here's the Pottery Barn one again, and here is mine. They are different in shape. They are a little bit different in the color. I probably should have added a little bit more brown to my paint, but $139 for a vase when I spent $250. I think I like mine a lot better. If you ever go to the thrift store, check the kitchen area. There's always a ton of rolling pins. I don't think there's a lot of people nowadays who enjoy doing home baking, so you can always find some. And the older they look, the better they are for this project. I'm reusing a couple of ones that I'd done for Christmas. This one I had painted the handles red, so I'm just using some rough grit sandpaper and some muscle to get this off. And I always forget about my rotary tool. So I remembered about partway through this and thought, wow, I could just go ahead and use my rotary tool and sand all of this gunk off. I have this particular rotary tool listed in my Amazon store, and the reason I love it so much is that it's really easy to switch out all of the different attachments. Plus, you can add different attachments to it, like you could add a regular drill bit to it, like I've done here. And I'm just going to need to take that off and replace it with the sanding disc. So what I'm going to be doing then is just using the little wrench to open it up, pull that off, and pop the other one on. So simple to do. It really makes quick work of getting all of the paint off even better than with my regular sanding paper. So I'm going to continue to take the paint off of this one, and then I'll do the other side as well. This is what I'm trying to recreate. These are some reclaimed wood decorative rollers. It's a set of 4 for $100. I got all of my rolling pins for about 3 or 4 bucks. Now, they're not these smaller ones that are really sweet, but I'm going to be on the lookout for some of these when I go thrifting next. My idea for the rolling pin itself, because it still looks fairly new, I'm going to use the same disc here and just sand off some of the finish on this just to give it a little bit more texture. So when I do my finishing touch on it, it will look a lot more rustic. To create an old and weathered look on the rolling pins, I'm going to be using some black wax, and this is from Behr, and it's available at Home Depot. Now, I'm going to just take a paper towel and I'm just going to start applying the wax and rubbing it in. I went really lightly to start, and then I went over it again, making sure that I grabbed a little bit of extra wax on some of the areas where I had sanded, just so it would get into all of those little rough spots and be a little bit darker. I love how this one turned out. This rolling pin is absolutely humongous. Let me know down in the comments if you know what this would have been used for. I think it probably would have been like an industrial baker kind of thing. One of the handles is already busted off, and I did paint the other handle charcoal, as you can see here. But I am going to take my rotary tool and just get some of that paint off. But I really like the look of this large one. It already has some dark spots and aged looks, so I'm going to leave this one as is, and I'm not going to add any black wax to it. Again, here are the Pottery Barn ones, a set of 4 of these mini ones for $99. I've got some larger ones, but I think I did a pretty good job making them look a little bit more aged than they were. Mine were about $4 each. Here's a look at how all of my projects turned out. You'll have to let me know what you think of them. For my first project, I'm going to create a couple of little molds. I dusted the inside of the molds with a little bit of cornstarch, and now I'm just going to take some air dry clay and push it in and then remove the excess. Then I'll flip the mold upside down and just kind of roll the clay out of the mold. I made a tiny flower and a little leaf garland. When I saw this vase at the thrift store, I had to have it. I thought it was gorgeous. I really loved the shape of it. And with it having the really long, narrow neck, it's perfect. I'm going to use Weldbond glue and put a little bit on the back of the flower mold, spread it around with my finger to make sure that all of the clay has some glue on it, and then place it down on my vase. At first, I placed it a little higher up because I did think I was going to use the little leaves underneath it, but then I didn't like that look. So I decided to skip the leaves and I just pushed the flower a little bit farther down so it was in the center of the vase. Then I added a piece of painter's tape just to hold it in place while the glue had a chance to set. I wasn't sure what color I was going to paint this vase, but then I decided on black. This is Rust-Oleum spray paint in satin black, and I'm going to give this a few really light coats to get it fully covered. I really love how it turned out, and I'm so glad I chose black. I found this sign in the wood section and it is black. It looks really cute, but I don't want this sign on it. So I'm just going to take some sandpaper and sand off the lettering because there is a little bit of a raised effect and I just want it to be smoother. I'm painting the top part of it white. I'm not going to go around the edges or the back because I really like the black border on this. And it's already a little distressed, so it's already got half the work done for me. But I am going to give this a 2 coats of white paint. This is just regular acrylic paint. I get it in a gallon at my hardware store, and it's a paint and primer in one. I created this design and then I printed it off on tissue paper. I have my tissue paper taped to a piece of cardstock. And the reason I use cardstock is I just find that my printer likes the thicker better. And then it doesn't have the ability to get jammed as easily as if you were using regular printer paper. I'm using Mod Podge to attach the tissue paper, and I also did something that I've never tried before. I used hairspray to seal the tissue paper so the ink wouldn't bleed, and it worked. So for those of you who left that in the comments many, many times, I finally decided to give it a try, and thank you so much because it does work. I just use my fingers very gently just to press it down into the Mod Podge, and I'm not even going to put any Mod Podge on top this time. Once it was dry, I sanded off the excess and I made sure to go a little bit rougher on the edges to bring back some of that natural wood color. I love this little design and it will be available for you on my website as a free printable. This is one of the biggest candlesticks I have seen and picked up at the thrift store in a really long time. It has all these funky colors on it, but I really loved the chippiness of it. If it would have been one solid color, like even that sort of gray green down at the bottom or the ivory, I probably would have left it that way. but I just didn't like that blue. So I'm taking this beautiful color, which is called Mushroom. I love it. It's my favorite color to use, and I'm going to give this 2 coats. Now I'm going to take a really tiny brush and some of my black wax, and I'm just going to go in all of the grooves. And that was my original thought, but then I decided that all of it needed just a little bit of dirtying up. I'm going to use a rag and add just a little bit to the rest of the candlestick. I didn't put a lot on the rag. I just wanted to get a little bit of a tinge of it being not so brand new. I think it turned out just perfect. I found these eucalyptus stems at the thrift store, so I took the wreath apart that they came in and cut them down to size. I'm going to be making a beautiful greenery wreath. I needed something to put on the back of my staging area that would just transition me from wintertime into spring. So I thought just a regular greenery wreath would be perfect. I really enjoy working with these wicker wreaths that you can get at dollar stores. I believe this one was a natural color and I had painted it white for a different project. But I also like to use grapevine wreaths because they're really easy to be able to stick the stems in and then just reinforce them with a little bit of hot glue. I like to add at least 3 different types of greenery to my wreaths. I believe that makes them look a lot more high end, but it also gives them different colors and textures. Once I had all of these sort of lamb's ear greenery pieces in, I decided that I didn't like how long they were. They were kind of floppy, so I trimmed off the little bits at the top and added those to the wreath too. The last bit of greenery that I'm going to add are these little small eucalyptus branches. They kind of look like boxwood, at least they have the colors of boxwood. And I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue and place them here and there on the wreath, just again to add a little bit more texture and color. One thing that I do a lot when I'm making my wreaths is pick them up and look at them from different angles, just to make sure that I have everything in the position that I like. And once it looks good to me, then I decide that it's finished. I really love how this one turned out, and I hope you like it too. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you enjoyed these home decor upcycles using thrifted finds that are really inexpensive to create. I hope this gives you some inspiration the next time you find yourself at a thrift store. Don't forget to do all the things. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and the like button. See you in the next one.